Today, we're going to be talking about, I don't want to say a lost band, because now they're, pretty popular. But what if I told you that the direction Maroon 5 took now wasn't their plan back in the day? Well, you might be thinking, well, what other direction were they going to go? I mean, they started out with funk and have... Stop that. My dog is being an idiot. They started out with a more funky type sound, pop rock sound, and then they decided to start chasing trends because they were upset that their albums weren't selling #1. And I am talking about their recent albums. But there's one album of theirs, technically, that is just lost in the fire. I found it nowhere on Spotify, nowhere on Google Play. The only place I could find it was YouTube in its entirety. Now, the reason I say this was kind of a Maroon 5 album, it's because it was and it wasn't. We all know their debut album was 2002's Songs About Jane. But in 1997, while they were all pretty young teenagers, they decided to embark on a more alternative rock, power pop type album under the name Cars Flowers, titled The Fourth World. So, let's just get it started with what happened. Well, around 1994, at the age of 15 and 16, Adam Levine and Ryan Dusick, the then original drummer for Cars Flowers and Maroon 5, met up and they became friends and they decided to start this band together. And around this time, they started to, Jesse Carmichael and Michael Madden joined the band and they started recording this album, which would eventually be The Fourth World, as Cars Flowers. You might be wondering, well, isn't there somebody missing? Because, they're Maroon 5 now, which granted they have 7 people in, but they were called Maroon 5 back then because there was 5 people in the band. Well, you would be right. James Valentine was not a part of this album as a band member. However, there was kind of an additional musician band member. Roger Joseph Manning did the keyboards on this album, so technically they did have a 5th member. I just don't think it was anything official. The only single off of this thing came in July 22nd of 1997. It's titled Soap Disco. It is also the song that kicks off the album, and it goes pretty interesting because if you were to hear what Maroon 5 does now and listen to what this song sounds like, you can tell that Cars Flowers definitely had a different intention than Maroon 5. Sure, they still wanted to be on the mainstream, but I don't think they wanted to do it the pop way. Soap Disco, if you listen to it, and if you listen to a majority of this album, there was a couple of influences that just flew off into my mind. And that is, there is a little bit of a Radiohead influence, a little bit of a Beatles influence, but I think the biggest influence that comes out of this is the Weezer influence. I mean, The Fourth World, this Cars Flowers album, sounds like the first 4 Weezer albums of Blue Album, Pinkerton, Green Album, and Maladroit. Granted, only Blue Album and Pinkerton were out around this time, but you look back and go, this sounds like that era of Weezer, just the, power pop type, fast-paced songs, and then you get some experimenting here and there. It seemed like they were going to take off. They were destined to take off, because in 1994, there was, grunge was dying off, and then Weezer came out of nowhere and brought the power pop genre to the US, and that became more popular. And you were thinking, this band could definitely have something here. They are doing a genre that is very well popular at this point in time, And what, Soap Disco, it did well for a while, but then it just kind of fell off. I mean, yeah, it was... They did make a TV appearance on Beverly Hills 90210. It says they performed the song Forgive and Forget, which is I don't remember. Yeah, it's not on the album. I don't remember that being on the album, but it wasn't. But so they were kind of getting there, but at the same point in time, there wasn't a lot of attention. Like I said, the single didn't take off. The album, I mean, out of the 3 reviews I found for it on here, 2 out of 3 are good. All Music and Entertainment Weekly liked it. Pitchfork, not so much. And what makes this album even weirder, that it's kind of forgotten about, is the producer. The producer of this album, by the way, was released under Reprise Records, which I think was the record label Green Day was under at that point too, which they had just released albums like Dookie, Insomniac, and Nimrod. But anyway, the producer of this album was Rob Cavallo, who ironically was the producer of the biggest Green Day albums in Dookie and American Idiot, but he also did Insomniac and Nimrod. And he also did other albums, like he's known for doing one of my favorite Paramore albums, Brand New Eyes. He did My Chemical Romance's The Black Parade. He's done a lot of stuff for the Dave Matthews Band. He did Phil Collins' Testify, Shinedown's The Sound of Madness, and even Kid Rock's Rock and Roll Jesus, whatever you want to say about it, plus a little bit of Alanis Morissette. He also did work a little bit more Paramore than just Brand New Eyes. He worked for them on their Decode song for the Twilight soundtrack and on their Singles Club EP. So this guy, has a pretty decent track record. He, has that going for him. He's also worked with Lil Peep as well, so he's gotten in the rap game before, and he's won multiple Grammy Awards. So the question is, what happened to Cars Flowers after this album didn't do so well? Well, the band started drifting apart. They weren't happy that they were this failing band. They didn't take off like they were hoping that they were going to, as a bunch of teenagers do. They're like, oh, we're going to get big someday. And, I think had they have done more than one single off of this thing, because I looked, and there's not a single song I dislike on this album. It's 11 tracks. A couple of the songs I found meh were Never Saga, Love the Small Time, To Her With Love, My Ocean Blue, and Captain Splendid. And my favorites from that album are Soap Disco, Future Kid, Myself, Oliver, Sleepy Windbreaker, and Pantry Queen. Now, on the song My Ocean Blue, it actually introduces the Jane girl to us. At that time, Adam Levine was with that Jane girl, and then later she would be the inspiration for their first album, which was titled Songs About Jane, which she gave them permission to use her name on that album, even though her and Adam Levine had been broken up. And Captain Splendid is actually about Jesse Carmichael and his parents' divorce, and Adam Levine being around that, seeing how it affected Jesse, and it was a fantastic finisher that's 6 minutes long. And then there's also a lot of great guitar solos. You know how greedy Adam Levine is, so not only does he do lead vocals, but he does lead guitar, and I will admit he does a hell of a job on it. And yeah, then this album just kind of went into obscurity. Time went on. The band members said they were unhappy that they were just this failing band, so they all decided to go and kind of do their own things with other bands. But then in 2001, we all know what happened then. They all got back together and added the member of James Valentine to do lead guitar work, while Adam Levine actually switched to rhythm guitar. Surprising, just because of his ego. I'm surprised he gave up lead guitar, but, whatever. And then the other 4 came back to make Maroon 5, and then in 2002 they released their highly acclaimed debut album, Songs About Jane, and since then they've pretty much been on top of the world, even when they aren't at their best. But it's just a weird thing, because you look at, had that Cars Flowers album taken off, how popular would Maroon 5 be now? because they had this completely different sound they were going for, two completely different genres from different influences. They were definitely more rock than anything back then, alternative, and they wore their influences on their sleeve. And, you know, as for it's different now, my hair likes to stick up, because they just kind of chase trends. If they're not number one, they'll try anything to be number one. Whereas back then, sure, they wanted to be this popular band, but had they had made it to like maybe number 20 or number 10 on the Billboard, that's when I think the band would have been happy enough at that point to say, you know what, we made it where we want to be. And they kept on doing the same thing. I don't know if they would have gone the direction of Weezer, because like I said, Weezer was a heavily influenced on this album. You can definitely tell. But it's another one of those what ifs, I guess. So, yeah, I guess that's what I can call this one then. I wasn't planning on it being a what if, but, no, you know what? I'm not going to do a what if on this. I don't know if I'm even going to do that series anymore. But, yeah, I figure I'd talk about this album because it just kind of gets forgot. You know, you look up Cars, Flowers on any of the music sharing devices, it's not there. You even go to Maroon 5 just to see if maybe they hit it in there somewhere. It's not there, and you know how Adam Levine is. He kind of wants to forget about the songs about Jane era and the It Won't Be Soon Before Long and Hands All Over era and kind of focus on now. So, obviously, there would be nothing of Cars, Flowers really out there to the world. I don't even know if you can buy it in stores anymore. I know you can probably still buy it, but probably on eBay somewhere for like $1. Probably. But, yeah, you can tell me what you guys think. What would have happened if Cars, Flowers would have taken off and there would have been no Maroon 5? That's just an interesting thought. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, share. And I will catch you guys next time.